So now I'm going back a bit to the start of the game. When I choose my ship, I also have to choose my final opponent, the boss. The boss is always made up of at least 2 parts, and there can be more. Each boss also comes with a scenario card. You can see the values here. They indicate the challenge level of the boss. This one is the easiest in the base box. It only has 2 parts and a challenge value of 5. But there's also a hardcore version of the boss. I can flip the boss cards over to get stronger versions, more stats, more health, more speed, and so on. It becomes much tougher in this case, 3 times harder. That's the hardcore mode. We obviously don't recommend starting with hardcore mode. It's better to get familiar with the core gameplay first. Now, about the scenario card, it's very important. Each boss has a unique scenario card. On it, you'll see scenario A, B, and C. These represent different situations that can occur while exploring. Let me take a sector deck as an example. When I draw cards from it, I might encounter one of the scenario cards. There are 3, A, B, and C. When I draw one, I immediately apply the corresponding effect from the boss's scenario card. For example, if I draw the B card, Lucky You Stop choose to gain either 1 engineer, 1 assault power, or 1 missile. This particular boss is very beginner-friendly. All of its scenario effects are positive. One gives health, another grants a fusion cell. Once I've completed 3 sectors and 3 spaceports since, remember, there's always a spaceport at the end of each sector, I move on to the final battle. As you've seen, the boss's stats are massive. So if I go in with just a basic ship and no upgrades, there's no way I can win. So when I get to the boss, there are special conditions described in the scenario. Here, I can choose which part to start with. For example, I'll look at their stats and compare them with my strengths. Let's say I choose to start with this part. I'll first fight that section. Once I defeat it, either by boarding or destroying it, or whatever method, I'll move on to the second part. So it's a succession of multiple battles. I don't regenerate my ship's compartments between boss fights, but if I have mercenary powers or tech abilities that can be used once per battle, I'll be able to use them again for each boss part. Once I've destroyed the second part of the boss, it's over. I win the game. I've defeated the easiest boss with a challenge value of 5. There are also other bosses, 4 total in the base box. Let me show you an example. Here you can see this boss has 3 parts. I can also choose which one to start with. It's much tougher, with better stats and a higher challenge rating. It also has a special effect. This one is also unique. Every time I draw a scenario card during exploration, I must draw a reinforcement card for the boss. For example, this one gives +2 health to the leftmost boss part, so I know by the time I reach it, it'll have more health. The longer I explore, the more time I take, the stronger the boss becomes. If I draw more of those cards, well, again, +2 health and another one. This one adds initiative to the top part of the boss. So the more scenario cards I draw during exploration, the more time I spend, the stronger the boss becomes. That was the second scenario, a tougher boss, who also has, of course, a hardcore version. Let's look at another boss. I'll clear the board here. This one is a different setup again. You'll see that this time I'm forced to start with the bottom part of the boss, and it has its own scenario, with clue cards. For starters, this boss is already much stronger, and every time I draw a scenario card, I can choose to sacrifice one of my ship's resources, an engineer for scenario A, assault power for scenario B, or a missile for scenario C. Doing so lets me earn a clue, and if I don't have all 4 clues, by the time I exit the 3rd starport, I can't even fight the boss. I won't know its location, and I'll lose the game. So this scenario is even harder, not just because of the boss's stats, but also because I need to search through the sectors for all 4 clues that unlock access to the final fight localization. And now, let's look at the most difficult boss from the base game. This one right here, you can already see the challenge values, 20 and 30. He's much stronger. Let me put the pieces in the correct order. There we go. So here are all 4 parts of the boss. Sorry for the messy alignment. Now, let's check its scenario. In scenario A, the next enemy ship I face in battle in a sector will gain +1 health point. In scenario B, the next enemy ship gets +2 initiative. And in scenario C, I take an alert cube and place it on the scenario card or lose 2 health. If I place a second alert cube, the boss will immediately enter combat no matter where I am in the game. So of course, I'll try to avoid scenario cards at all costs. If one does appear, I'll probably choose to lose 2 health rather than see the boss appear too early, especially if I'm not ready for it. Like all bosses, he has unique abilities. For example, this one forces me to sacrifice a resource at the beginning of each phase of the battle. This is by far the hardest boss in the base game. And just like the others, he has a hardcore version too. That covers the 4 base bosses. You have to choose one at the very start of the game, and that choice will completely change how your run plays out. Your whole strategy will shift based on it. And with the scenario envelopes and the expansions, players who back the campaign will get a total of 8 bosses to challenge. That's it. I hope all of this was clear. Feel free to ask me any other questions about the boss gameplay. And don't hesitate to join us on Discord. We can talk more in depth there.